Welcome, welcome, welcome. As I like to say every week, I'm still called Dr. Nerenberg. But unlike before, I'm going to say this. I'm now 83 years of age, 83 years old. Went fast. Happy to be here. It's actually a privilege to be in your presence and have the opportunity to share with you insights, lessons, and inspirations of a lifetime. Truly my privilege. And I've had the good fortune to be in practice as a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of California since 1974. So it's a great privilege for me to be able to take that expertise and experiences and share with you in such a way with the intention of uplifting you and your loved ones for the rest of your lives. That's my intention today. The title of today's presentation is Disrespect and Humiliation, the best way to deal with it. Disrespect and humiliation, the best way to deal with it. No one wants to be disrespected. No person on earth wants to be disrespected. And the disrespect, when it's shown to us, can very readily and easily lead to humiliation, feeling humiliated. And we've all had some of those experiences in life. It's impossible to avoid that. At work, perhaps a supervisor criticized you in front of others. Or perhaps wrote you up for something that you felt was unjust because everybody else was doing it and you did it, now you're written up and they're not. You felt disrespected, singled out. And particularly when something is said in front of other people, it's humiliating. That's the reaction to that. Many people get angry if they feel disrespected because that's a protection against feeling humiliated. I'm going to talk about more effective ways than that. More effective ways than lashing out. Honorable ways. Ways that you can definitely do. You might have felt disrespected and humiliated by somebody taking an arrogant attitude towards you. Feeling superior, or taking an attitude of superiority, or a demeaning look, or patronizing way with you. And the disrespect could be the content of what's being said, could be tone of voice, could be subtle, and body posture, body language. All of that affects the communication. The loudness of the voice, the tone of the voice, the facial expression, all of that. And you've had these experiences. You've been disrespected, you've felt disrespected, and many of us have disrespected others or humiliated others. Now, when you feel disrespected, often the person didn't mean any disrespect. Often, not always. It's just that person's way of talking. And they may not single you out for it, they just may talk to everybody that way. They may just talk to everybody that way. So we'll talk about internal ways of dealing with it, and then ways in terms of how to have a conversation with the person that you feel disrespected you, the person that you feel sense of humiliation around, or ways to have a respectfully real conversation. The key is respect. The key word is respect. Respectfully real. And often people don't feel any recourse to address the disrespect. Or they feel the other person wouldn't even care. The other thing is, even if it's somebody that would care, or you have a close relationship with, it could be a spouse, a significant other. If you had a conversation, there's a good chance they won't admit it or acknowledge that they were being disrespectful in the way they talk to you. Some people can, but people will go into denial. We say, well, I'm a good person. I don't talk disrespectfully to anybody, so therefore I didn't talk disrespectfully to you. You've got some issues, get some therapy, do what you have to do, but it's nothing to do with me that you feel humiliated. Go fix yourself. I didn't do anything to you. Now, even if somebody doesn't intend something, if they don't intend to disrespect you or humiliate you, you look at the intention and also look at the effect. So even if you say to some people, you might not have intended it, but the effect was I felt humiliated. Of course, somebody who's advanced psychologically, spiritually might say, gee, if I didn't mean to insult you or humiliate you, but if I did, I apologize, please forgive me. That's what we want to do if somebody feels insulted or hurt by us in a way that hurt to a point where they feel humiliated. If we can, we want to say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'll try to be more careful in the meantime if I can understand what I did to you. That would be a compassionate response. But rare. You won't find many people that could do that. One, they don't have the awareness to see they're doing it. And, or they might don't want to admit it, one or the other. That's the issue. So the key is, when you have a conversation with that other person, you want to do it in a respectful, real manner. This will be for one example. I always talk respectfully to you. I've always looked up to you. I've always liked you. But when you speak to me that way, I feel disrespect. I feel humiliated. You may not have intended it, but I need to let you know how I feel. Maybe if you wouldn't mind apologizing, that'd be great. That's just a hypothetical conversation you could have. But it's phrased in a way where it's done in a respectful way. Because if you say to somebody, I want to be real with you, I think you're a jerk the way you talk to me, just get out of here. I think you're a terrible person, just horrible. Just being real. How dare you talk to me like, get out of here. Well, that's not super likely to create a connection or have the person be able to face what they've done. They might be able to, but the first one saying, I like you, we have a close relationship. Most of the time you're very kind to me, but this time I felt disrespected. I felt you crossed a line, a boundary. I feel humiliated. That's a more respectful way. That's being respectfully real. And it's more of a probability that the person can look at themselves. Not a high probability. Most people will not look at themselves. Most people will get defensive if you have a conversation. They'll feel defensive and deny or even further attack. You're too sensitive, you're overreactive. Why don't you just go take a nap or do something, but talk to your therapist, but hey, don't bring it to me. And I'm talking about, this is the kind of conversation you might have with a friend, spouse, significant other, a relative. And it's something, in some circumstances, you could talk to a supervisor about it or a coworker in some circumstances. So what we want to do, though, is be able to work it out within ourselves, because we don't want to carry the toxicity of that with us, the anger, the desire for revenge, to say something nasty back. You did this to me, boom, I'm going to hit right back, verbally. So we want to find a way to balance that. That would be normal, to have a hostile thought towards the person. Totally normal. You didn't choose that. You didn't choose to feel humiliated. You didn't choose to feel that anger or rage towards the person. It just pops into your mind, but doesn't define who you are. It's based on your genetics, family upbringing, societal norms. So in terms of dealing with yourself, one of the 4 commandments of honor is I wish you well. So I just like to tell that person off. And you can say, well, I wish you well. I wish you well. The things I'm going to tell you now about how to deal with yourself internally is a perfect preparation for talking to the person. Because you're going to come in with a more respectful, positive attitude yourself, which is going to help. I wish you well. I want to just tell them off. I'm so angry. It's not the first time that person did it. But I wish you well. You might look for a statement like this within yourself to repeat this to yourself. I feel terrible, I feel humiliated, but I hope to come back much stronger than ever. Hopefully the sense of humiliation will help me in some way. What's the best true story I can tell myself about this problem? Well, hopefully I'll become more humble, and hopefully I'll learn something so I don't do it to others. Now, I'm not saying we tolerate the disrespect. No. We don't let people walk on us. That's not the way of honor. If somebody's disrespectful, it's not good for you. You feel humiliated. But that's not honorable on their part. We don't just take it passively. We do what we can to neutralize that harm so we don't carry the burden and we don't inflict more burden for that person. That's the key. So I wish you well is one of the thoughts. What's the best true story I can tell myself about this? Hope to come back much stronger than ever. The other thing is, it's not about me, nothing personal. This person talks to everybody that way. I wasn't being singled out. It's not about me. This is impersonal. That thought also. So if you're having a conversation with that person, you might say, I've always respected you. You said something to me. I know you didn't mean anything personal about it. It wasn't personally aimed at me, but I did feel humiliated. Now, if you say to somebody, you disrespected me, you offended me, you insulted me, that's a statement about him or her. That's more likely to set off a defensive reaction. It's like, you did this bad thing. It's true, but it won't lead to the most constructive communication. A statement that nobody could argue with, and it's not aimed at the other person, is, hey, I feel really humiliated when you talk to me that way. I feel hurt and humiliated. Well, that's a statement about me. That's a statement about you. The person's more likely to be able to respond in a way that will be healing. Be healing for you and for the relationship. It could be a very close relationship. You say, I'm going to bring this up to you because I don't want this as a barrier between us. In my mind, I'm a real problem with something you said, and I'm bringing it up because if I don't, I'm going to feel very separate from you and a barrier, and I don't want to feel that. That's a constructive motivation because I care about our relationship. I care about you. I need to tell you I felt humiliated when you said what you said. Or the way you said it, the tone of voice you used. I felt humiliated by it. I'm telling you this, well, one, it's happened before. I tried to turn my head away from it a few times, but it's happened before. You're probably not aware of it. I'm sure you meant no harm, but I have to tell you, that's how I felt, really humiliated. I did.
What if your boss just says, stop being a wimp, go back to work?
Yeah. Now, we're talking about something. Hugh made the comment, what if your boss says, stop being a wimp, go back to work? Well, that could happen. Now, if it's an intimate relationship at home with a significant other, a relative, a friend, that's one thing. At work, you're not going to be able to say that to anybody. You might just start needing to look for another job, or you might need to just say, hey, I need some time out away on disability. I just can't function over here. This is disabling me. So sometimes where you can't go there, and that's a bad sign. That's a really red flag for the situation. If you can't even address it, try to deal with it internally. Again, the strategy is you deal with it internally. I wish you well. The best truth I can tell myself about this, nothing personal. not about me. And the other thought might be, gee, did I do something to set this off? Because I do take full responsibility for co-creating my reality and my problems. It's one of the commandments of honor. I take full responsibility for co-creating my reality and my problems. Maybe you can see that you said something to trigger it. So the conversation would go this way. You know, I said this to you, and I could see where that would create a problem. And so when you responded back, I felt very humiliated. But I just don't put that on you. I can see how I co-created it. That makes it easier for the other person to look at themselves. Whatever you can do to make it easier for the person to look at themselves. There's two reasons you would talk to that person. One, to get it off your chest, because it will fester. And then it's natural to have a hope that's going to have some effect on the other person, and it may not. Probably won't in most cases. But just having expressed it in a way that was an honorable way, a respectfully real manner, will relieve you of that toxicity. This is a mental detoxification approach. Going into honorable thoughts that I just told you about will help detoxify you, be a mental detoxification, and set the platform for a respectfully real conversation, which is the most constructive, productive type imaginable. There's no guarantee how the other person is going to respond. If they're mature, if they have awareness, if they're humble enough to really see their shortcomings, you'll get a good response. How often is that going to happen? Not often. Even if it doesn't produce a good result with the other person, it can be a very good thing for you to release yourself of. You don't want to feel like somebody gets rolled over you and you don't say anything. And you feel very wimpy and abused. You don't want to feel abused. You already feel abused. You don't want to feel more abused by saying nothing. So you find a respectful, real way to do that. And you achieve a respectful, real communication by applying the commandments of honor, the way of honor within yourself. That's key. So I've talked to you about how to deal with the disrespect and humiliation in terms of your internal thoughts and feelings, and how to communicate to another person about it. Double-edged approach, internal and external. This is the best way to deal with feeling disrespected and humiliated. The absolute best way. So I'm going to open it up to conversations. We have many wonderful, wonderful people here. And when I know when you all hear each other speak, I've had people tell me that they benefit so much from hearing the others speak. They benefit from me, but they benefit as much or more from hearing from each other. So I'm going to open it up for any comments, questions, real life incidents in your own lives, whatever you want to share. It's open to you now. Kathy.
Yes, this is going to be a quick question.
No, make it quick. Just take our time.
What happens if you're like with a group of people and you're being disrespected? Do you talk to that person right away, or wait until it's just the two of you before you say something?
Excellent.
Because if he humiliates you in front of other people and you say, that's not right, he might get madder.
Exactly. Here's the point. Firstly, when someone disrespects us in front of others, that amplifies it 100-fold. It's bad enough a person talks badly to you just one-on-one, does it in front of others, then there's a sense of loss of face. And that's more harmful, more hurtful, more humiliating. As a rule of thumb, it's best to talk to that person one-on-one afterwards. The others heard it, so you now feel your loss of face in front of them. You want to just minimize your losses later on. If the best way is to talk individually with that person in the manner that I just told you, in terms of dealing with your own self first, and then have that respectful conversation. Now, most people in that group setting, and they're feeling hurt, humiliated, and disrespected, insulted, offended, but how about hard to have the presence of mind how to deal with it in a respectful, real manner. That's why I recommend, people saying the commandments of honor 3 times a day with the bridge. And the bridge is, what's the most honorable thing to think, say, and do? So that way you're ready, because the repetition is preparation for application to achieve internalization and stabilization. So if you're really well versed in this inside of yourself, you might be able to deal with it then in a respectful way. For instance, it might go something like this: sir, I have to say, with all due respect, the thing you just said about me, and the way you said it, I feel it's not true. And perhaps when we talk later, we'll have an opportunity to discuss this together. So that way he doesn't feel disrespected there, and you're not going to go into it. But you've saved face. You feel you would feel that way, that you saved face in front of the other people, because you didn't just take it. Part of losing face is feeling very wimpy in front of the eyes of others. That's tough to take. So it's not only he did what he did, but you feel very wimpy that you just let him walk on you. So if there's 4 or 5 people, they're all carrying that image. That's what happened. And you walk around thinking, this one saw it, that one saw it, that one saw it. So if you can do it, say something, well, sir, with all due respect, perhaps we could talk about this later in private. You can at least go there, because some things I want to say about it, but this is not the appropriate time. That way, you're not attacking them, but the others know that you didn't just lay down for it. These are things that will help. None of them is 100% cure, but these are ways to minimize the humiliation. That's what we're trying to do, trying to minimize it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Perfect sense. Thank you. Yeah,
it's very, that group, that's a good example you brought up, Kathy. Excellent. Excellent. Mm-hmm. Another thing that's hard to take is somebody talk to us that way. And I know you, Kathy, very well. You would never talk to somebody that way in a million years. So that it's even more hurtful, because if you yourself would never talk that way, it's harder to take. Now, I will say this. You're a very kind, lovely person. And that's generally, if someone gets disrespected, it's usually a kind, lovely person. They don't typically pick on a bitch. They typically, being a bitch, it makes you some immune to it, because they know bitch will just go off on him right then and there, and he knows that's going to come. He doesn't want to deal with that, whatever. So that abuse of power, that offensiveness, happens to usually the best people. That's why you need to have to deal with it in an honorable, respectful, real manner. So you're maintaining your integrity, but you're also dealing with the situation. And it's doable.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, Kathy. Most welcome. Who else would like to ask a question or make a comment? Hugh? Hugh's going to say something. Yes, Hugh.
When do you know it's time to quit for your own mental health?
Yeah, Hugh was asking a question. When is it time to quit for your own mental health? Sometimes, some people in a situation have a mortgage, children they're paying, the schools and overhead. So if somebody spits on them, they have to say it's raining. And that's a terrible position to be in. But it's always best to have something saved up and be in a position where you can walk at any time. That's the best position to be in, where you can walk. So a person crossed that line once, 2, 3 times, 4 times. At some point you say, I can't take this anymore. I'm not going to take it anymore. And many of my great people that I see go out on work disability, give them time to evaluate it, give them time to recover, gives time to recompose themselves. And it's not just because when people get disabled, it's not just the anxiety, the panic attacks, the depression. That's contributing to it. It reaches a point where a person says, I can't take this anymore, or I won't take this anymore. When it gets to that point, call it point X, I can't take it anymore, I won't take it anymore. That's really that's the moment of disability. Again, the depression, the anxiety, the panic attacks, that's all part of it, but that's really the key defining feature, because many people work with depression or anxiety. You get to a point where you say, I'm not going to take it anymore, I can't take it anymore. I'm waking up with panic attacks, I don't want to get out of bed in the morning, I have nightmares about work. It's the greatest torment in my life is dealing with some of the people at work. And at some point, you say, I come home very irritable and upset. It's affecting my relationships, it's affecting my sleep, it's affecting my health. I'm not going to take it anymore. I can't take it anymore.
You've heard about instances where employees have turned to violence.
So Hugh's mentioning there are times when employees turn to violence. Absolutely happens. Some people, to deal with the humiliation, become violent. Sometimes verbally, sometimes physically. I mean, you have workplace shootings, workplace rage, and it's based on that's what sets that off. These situations are very penetrating. People take it deep within them, their whole being. When you're having a disrespectful situation towards you, an oppressive situation, an abusive situation, people can't lead a normal life. They come home and they're thinking about it. They wake up, they're thinking about it. In their dreams, they're dreaming about it. It's very pervasive. And very often the supervisor or the boss or the manager has no idea it's having that effect and may not even care, but certainly has no idea that it's been that debilitating. They just think they're doing their job or whatever they tell themselves about it. None of these people say to themselves, I'm a really bad person the way I talk to so-and-so. I'm really terrible. Most of them are not going to be doing that. They're going to justify and say, this person deserved it. And if the person is making a company money, it's very hard to get human resources or the higher ups to do anything about it. Very hard. Now, one way, there are attorneys who specialize in employment law. Sometimes you need to get an attorney to, as part of regaining your own sense of dignity, you took a certain abuse and you felt discriminated against, harassed, you felt retaliation, you felt a hostile work environment. There are attorneys who specialize in that. And there are some very big settlements around these issues, particularly if you have witnesses. And most people, most supervisors or bosses that become abusive, there's usually a trail of blood. By that I mean they've done it to other people before, and typically there are complaints filed. Now you have some great supervisors, some great bosses, but often the people who want power are not the kindest people in the world. They prefer power over love, many. Now, you have some people who are way beyond that. But that's a common dynamic. It's not uncommon for some of the people that rise the most in a corporation or in any organization of being more power hungry and oriented than love oriented. And having power can be a good thing, but often it's abuse. So if you're being harassed and insulted and offended, that's an abuse of power. And very common. I see it all the time. I have so many wonderful, beautiful human beings that I see that we just abuse for long periods of time. Not just once or twice. And it's humiliating. It's demeaning, it's humiliating. I've given you the tools for how to deal with it internally and for the conversation. And sometimes a person can go on a disability or just say, I quit. That's the other one. But it's best to not do it at the spur of the moment. I would recommend always being ready to walk. Making sure, I would recommend, if you can, to have a substantial enough savings where you can get by for a period of time. So you're not just totally dependent on this situation, where you can pay your bills, your mortgage, and feed the family for a period of time. Well, thanks for bringing it up here. Good questions. These are all great questions. Who else would like to ask a question or make a comment?
This is Nancy.
Nancy.
I just want to add on behalf of HR, right? Which is my department. As you brought it up, I was getting just flashbacks of work. So a lot of the times when people do go to HR, our hands are tied. When they go and complain about a manager or a vice president or a lead or, whoever it may be, because when you do go talk to, let's say, the president about it, or, you want something to get solved, you're not allowed to do anything because, that person can't be touched because they're bringing in the money, or that person has the contacts, or that person. So yeah, it becomes very difficult to do that. And to, you're the ones that end up bumping heads with that particular manager. And a lot of us in HR, we are already aware of how those individuals are. And it's difficult. I think that's one of the main reasons why I had to go on leave, because it was just so much arguing with them and letting them know, hey, you can't talk to that person that way. Hey, you can't. But regardless of you fighting with them, they don't change their ways because they're untouchable. So,
and they can be untouchable because they're making money, or they're holding the organization together, or they may have something over their superiors. They know something that the superior doesn't want known.
Yes.
Call it a type of blackmail, if you would. That also is a reason why they won't make a step.
True.
Absolutely. True. Absolutely. That's reality. Nancy, these are perfect points, and you're in HR, and you feel powerless. So people go to HR, and they feel betrayed or let down by HR, not realize that HR can only do so much. As a matter of fact, talking to their supervisor could even make it worse.
Yeah.
Now they say, oh, now you're reporting me, huh? And that's like, of course, then if you could document signs of retaliation, that's highly litigatable. I would say, if you're going through something like this, management, coworker, nobody's doing anything about it, definitely you want to have an attorney that you're talking to. Absolutely you want an attorney. Because that way you don't feel so powerless. One of the worst parts of it is to feel like a victim, powerless, wimpy, humiliated. So you have an attorney, well, now you start gathering the facts, you start writing down notes, what's going on, and you're building a case. So you're not just taking it, you're doing something to neutralize this and have justice done, both for yourself and for other employees, because this person's going to do it to others. So the person needs a good lesson. Hey, this is not acceptable. And you're not just doing it for you, you're doing it for others.
Yeah.
Because
and that was a good way that I would use, I eventually burned out, that I would tell management or the VPs, the company might have to go to court for this, but I'm going to be defending the company, not you. If the employee decides to sue you directly, they have a legal right to do that. And guess what? I'm not going to court for you. And so when I would say it that way, then, I think 90% of the time they would tone it down, and then they'd go back to their way in a couple of months. But once the manager realizes that, it's like, I'm here to protect the company, not you. But it's still, I had about 60 managers. It's an international company, so it was just a lot of bumping heads. But, if that helps anyone out there.
Well, it's a very valuable thing, because many people that I see have issues just as you're describing. So hearing an HR perspective on this is very, very, very valuable, Nancy. More than you might even know. Very valuable.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, this stuff I would always want to tell the employees, and in my mind, I would think, I hope they don't sue, the company. I hope they just sue the employee, the manager directly.
Well, if you
But
sue
I
the
can't do
manager,
that.
it's usually covered under the umbrella of the employer. But it's a good thing to do for this reason. He sees a lawsuit against him for $500,000. The company's seeing for $500,000. But he's seeing named themselves. It does put the fear of God in them because that's coming to them personally. Most likely you won't get it against them. They're covered under the umbrella of the company. But it's a good strategy. It's a good legal strategy.
Yeah, that's the best thing. I mean, a lot of stuff I saw was like, oh my God, it would just make me so angry. But, I can't counsel an employee. I can only do so much. I have to stick up for the company. That's what I'm getting paid for. But yeah, so just, if anybody needs some info, there you have it. That's HR's perspective, what we deal with. Yeah.
Well, hearing the powerlessness of the reality of what goes on is very helpful. Because I've had so many people come back disappointed they went to HR, they say they didn't do anything. Well, maybe there couldn't be too much they could do, or they did try and nothing could come of it. Again, personally,
Dr. Nerenberg.
Yes.
Hey, it's Van Brown.
Van.
I just wanted to say that I'm happy that Nancy shared that because, I think probably a lot of us on the call have engaged with, human resources. At times we have to remember that they're kind of in the middle, and to the degree of what she spoke about, depending on the culture, they could not have autonomy to, properly investigate or properly document or communicate.
Exactly. That's why I tell people.
But because they're in the middle, they're gonna end up eating most of it, or a lot of it.
It's exactly true. That's what the thing that will get movement. It typically won't be able to come from HR the way you might want. Is an attorney.
Yeah.
If you put it together, you have an attorney, then everybody starts paying real attention to what's going on.
That's a good way to get rid of your manager.
Well,
want to be liable
because now you're not just making us money, you're costing us money. We have to pay the attorney fees. Let me tell you something. You sue an employer, they have to pay a lot of money just for discovery even before the case goes to court. But anyway, that's really, or you report it to some agency outside the company, the labor board, for example. Outside, usually if you try to settle it within the company, it can be done, but it's a lot harder. Mm-hmm. You go to the labor board, you go to an attorney, you go to a particular commission that's under that they're part of under their umbrella. Then we need an outside force to come in. That will help a lot. Good. I'm glad you made the comment, Van.
I'll give a quick example. Like, for instance, we had, and I'm not going to give any names or anything. So I had an individual, one of the managers didn't like that this gentleman had an accent. And he knew his job. He knew everything, but he was within the 90 days and she wanted him fired. And to me, it was a ridiculous reason why, she would want to let someone go. And it was more discriminatory than anything, right? But obviously I couldn't say that to the employee. And I couldn't sleep for about 2-3 weeks. I felt so horrible knowing that I was taking this man's livelihood. And to them, they clean their hands off because they know you're going to do the dirty work, right? I want this person gone and blah, 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 blah. And this is why. And it's just, he's just not working out or, and the reason why, because you've heard the comments before. And, just to kind of let you guys know. And as far as HR, yeah, you have to keep a straight face. You have to stay, like Doctor says, in the middle of it. But you take that stuff home with you. Like, I felt horrible for weeks, just knowing that he wasn't going to have a paycheck anymore. And till this day, I think about him and I feel real bad because he was an older gentleman. And he would take care of his older mom. And I knew the reason why she didn't like him. And so just to kind of give you guys, you know, a little understanding of, and then sometimes that's why HR is as tough as it is, because you have to put that face up. You really do.
Wow, that's a real life situation. I presume you told the person. Did you tell that person that you had to let go? Did you say how badly you felt about it, or you couldn't?
I think he saw it in my face, but no, I didn't want to. You know, I personally told him, you know what, I think you're doing a good job, but you're not under me. You know, the department that you're under, you know, it's not working out for them. And unfortunately, we have to let you go. And I mean, that's pretty much all I say. There's not much you can really talk about because you already feel like, okay, that's it. Here's your check. And, you know, but
that's
so
rough.
I always keep it short.
That's
keep it
rough.
short.
That's being a hatchet person. That's rough. That's a tough job.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
Right. Tough job. Wow. And I can see why it bothered you. That's because you have a conscience and a good heart, Nancy. I can see that. I know one case, one business situation where the boss had to fire somebody and the boss was crying because the person really wasn't doing a good job and they had to fire them. It was a justified firing, but the boss was still crying, having to do it because she liked them, but she still had to do it. That was compassionate. The person at least sees that dealing with a human being. That's part of the thing is, you know, there's a human being. We don't want to lose our humanity. You know, we don't want to betray the company, but, you know, say something, hey, I feel really terrible about this. It's beyond my hands. There's nothing I can do. I have to, it's my job to tell you that you're being let go. And it's nothing personal on my part because it wasn't my decision.
Yeah. Just to answer, Bill put in a message on the chat. So the chain of command, it really depends on the company. When I first started with this company, HR had all the power because the owner of the company, the president, and this again is an international company, they were like brother and sister. They started the company together about 20 some years ago. Now the company was sold last year to a billionaire up north, San Francisco. And so once he came in, it's the business department has the control. So it wasn't no longer HR. So the structure completely changed. So it really depends on the company, if they're HR led or if it's business led. So
that's something else people don't know exactly where the real power is. I've seen mergers and acquisition. In fact, I owned a company that was bought out one time and totally changed the corporate culture. You know, mom and pop was very personable. We cared about everybody. They were about numbers. And a lot of times there's an merger and acquisition. A lot of people get fired because they feel it's duplicating services. They already have somebody at headquarters that can do that. So they either let the person go or they stress them out to where they go. It can get pretty brutal. Particular merger acquisitions or change of ownership, where the corporate culture is greatly changed. Yeah, good points, great points.
So, Doctor, I have a
Who's
question.
speaking?
This is Lorraine. This is Lorraine. Hi. So I've spent 27 years in healthcare, and I really haven't missed any time. But now what's happening is, so when I went to them for my mental health, I just kind of got the runaround and I got like, you don't need to be off work and you should work through your stress and, you know, just stuff I didn't agree with. So I paying out my own pocket. I'm seeking my own mental health care. And now my manager is calling me, just, you know, saying that she's, you know, checking up on me and how I'm doing. But that is actually causing me more anxiety. I feel like I can't get away. I feel like this company has just, because they're all about preventive care, you know, like, and they put on this really big front. You know, we've got like, you know, everything's about, thriving and making sure you're taken care of. But I almost feel like, I don't know, like pressured,
Well, listen, let me
let
interrupt.
me get well.
Lorraine,
Why are you bothering me?
Lorraine, let me tell you something. That's very common. Because number one, very often people feel you're not calling that you're really concerned about me. You're calling because you want to pressure me to go back, and
Yes.
you're just stressing me out more. I see this all the time. It can come from a supervisor. A lot of times, even hearing from coworkers will add to that stress because you're hearing something going on. This is happening at the office. This is happening. Stresses people out enormously. Just exacerbates the medical condition. So, you want to just document those situations. It can be considered harassment, and then if you have an attorney, that could enter into evidence. You never know how a case is going to go, but having an attorney where you're not just feeling powerless is very empowering, and makes you feel you have options and help you deal with the stress or even the humiliation of it, knowing you have recourse. I see that all the time. Exactly what you just said. And I've seen cases, I've seen people who work for a company 20, 25 years and will let go. And I tell them, did you get a severance package? No, they didn't. I said, well, that's something an attorney definitely. If you've been with a company, 10 years or more, you're entitled to a severance package. In Canada, for every year you work, you get 1 month severance pay. So if you work 10 years, that's 10 months severance pay. That's Canada. Here, it's not going to be that high, but you will get something. You will get something. So you want to know you have some recourse. You want to deal with injustice. You don't want to be passive in the face of injustice. Ultimately, the thought you want to tell yourself is justice will prevail. Justice will prevail. And then you move towards doing that. Not revenge. Not revenge will prevail. Justice will prevail. Where you're going to seek justice to help neutralize these kind of damaging effects. Good point. A very common situation, Lorraine. I'm glad you mentioned it. Very glad. Good.
Hi, Dr. Nerenberg. This is Tracy.
Tracy, my dear goddaughter. Great to hear from you.
I had a similar situation to Lorena when my manager was calling me when I was on my leave. And it's almost like it was really nice at first, like, oh, how you doing? Oh, okay. Oh, when do you think you're coming back? When do you think you'll feel better? And, my response, like, I don't know. My doctor hasn't released me yet.
That's the answer.
And then you can hear the voice change. Well, when do you think that will be? And they are just kind of fishing. I honestly, because of the job, I stopped answering the phone from the supervisor. I would only take emails from HR. And that was it, because that added stress is like, they're not really calling to check up on your well-being. It's not like it's your friend. Unless it really truly is a friend that you knew before that.
No, most of the time it's trying to pressure you to come back to work. Yeah, that's true.
Right. And exactly. It may have been just because of that person, because of their, it was for me, that person, they came into that position, that management or that management position knew. And so they started micromanaging everyone, all the veterans, and people just started dropping because they don't know how to do, that person didn't know how to do our job. We know how to do our job. And so we couldn't take it, and I was one of the last ones standing, and I even left because it was too much.
A lot of times when new management comes, that happens. And the new managers feel they've got to do something. They got to look like they're doing something productive. They start leaning on people in ways that really aren't necessary. And you're right. I'm sure that person didn't know the job. I know at UPS, to be management, you had to be a driver first. Well, now you don't have it. So you have young guys coming in, never driving a package truck or the big rigs, being a feeder driver or a package driver. And they'll start telling the drivers to do X, Y, and Z. And it doesn't even make sense to do it. And they don't really know the job. Now, there's another case. You have some companies where in writing they say 0 tolerance for safety issues. We have to always do it safe. But there are companies that will keep loading up work on the people to a point where it's not safe, where really the unspoken objective is to maximize the work you get out of the person, not the safety. And that happens. So the well-being of the employee is often, most of the time, secondary to making money. And it's more likely to happen in publicly traded companies where the responsibility is to shareholders and then getting bonuses. It's all about the numbers. And bringing honor into it means really putting the well-being of your employees first. And then, of course, making money is super important, but you don't want to be destroying people to make that money. You find some way to make the money and really deal honorably with your people. But yeah, that's exactly the case what you're saying, Tracy. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are any of your people in a union?
Now, Hugh's asking, is any people in the union? Now, we have people in a union. They'll file a grievance. If it's a strong union, they'll do something about it. Teamsters is very strong. It's very hard to fire anybody, for instance, a Teamster, unless they're caught stealing. But a lot of the unions are very disappointing to the people. I've known people who told me at the postal system that the union really didn't do anything for them when they were being harassed or whatnot. So if the union's known to be weak, it's not going to give you a lot of security. It's not going to give you a sense of empowerment to deal with injustices. But so, if you want to get the most support from your union, you got to go to the meetings. You got to give your input. You have to volunteer some time to help them in some ways. Then you become an individual. Getting their dues is typically not enough. But once they see that you're a reality and you're helpful to them, they'll go further for you in any grievance you file. They'll go further. That's just how it works. You give a gift at Christmas time to the president, to the treasurer, to your shop steward, to your business agent, because the time will come. If you need them, you want to make sure they know you. Otherwise, don't think paying your dues is enough. It's not. Good point about the union and dealing with this. Excellent. Anybody have anything else you want to ask or say?
I do, Dr. Nerenberg.
Well, Diana, very good to see. I love that background, the bridge in San Francisco. Wow. Yeah. Golden Gate.
Thank you. Just to piggyback off of what Tracy said, the very first time, many years ago, very first time I went on disability, I had the same situation where my supervisor would call me every month. And that was causing me even more stress, more anxiety.
Yes.
Make a long story short, when I came back to work, I was let go within a week's time.
That looks like retaliation. Looks like retaliation. That's highly litigatable, by the way.
Well, I was not well enough to go that route.
Yes, I understand.
So I have been on disability. Well, let me rephrase that. In my lifetime, in my work life, I have gone to HR in 3 different occasions, different jobs, different places, and it's really backfired. The last time that happened, when I went to HR, I promised myself that no matter how hard it got, I would keep it to myself, handle it, and not inform HR, because it really does backfire. They do not really have your best interest. And 99.9% of the times, if and when you do go to HR, that will cause you to be let go, especially here in California, an at-will state. So that's been my experience.
Well, you know, it's
HR
experience of a lot of people. And by the way, that people get let go, you go to HR and they get let go right after. That's indicative of retaliation. If that's documented, highly, highly litigatable. But again, as you said, you have to be up to that challenge. But not just you have to be up. I mean, you don't have to be super up to it. You just need to have an attorney. The attorney will be up to it when they see they can make money out of it. That drives it. They want justice, and as important as justice, even more, they want to make their money. So, and that's often what drives the attorneys, a combination of justice and the desire for the money. So being let go that way is highly, highly litigatable. Hostile work environment and retaliation, highly litigatable. There was a case where it was a very male-dominated industry, and it was a woman manager, and all the other managers were men. And so one of the employees was angry at her and was poking like that, poked her in the breast. Well, she got $300,000. She sued, she got $300,000. It's like a sexual harassment, $300,000 per count. Boom, 300. But then the other supervisors and management gave her a hard time, like retaliating against her. So she sued the company for hostile work environment and retaliation, and she was awarded $42 million. She documented it, $42 million for hostile work environment and retaliation. Now, they might have appealed it. I don't know what happened down the line. If they appealed it, maybe at best, maybe it was reduced to $25 million. Who knows? But the award was to a jury, by jury, $42 million. So that's empowering. But again, you have to document things with sufficient documentation. And even if you never have to sue the company, just knowing you have that option, you have an attorney, keeping track of certain things. You may choose never to do it. You may say, I'm not up to it, I don't want to do this. But knowing you have that option is empowering in itself. You don't feel as powerless. Good points, Diana. Very, very good points. That needs to be heard. That's reality. Capitalism is a great thing, but without honor in it, it can be very problematic. Yeah. Thank you, Diana. Well, it's been my privilege and my pleasure to be here with you, truly, presenting disrespect and humiliation, the best way to deal with it.
The sea of destiny is in your deepest struggle. God's will and mine be one, and I wish you well. You are co-creator, respectfully real. There's a way in the valley that turns weakness to steel. We're known through all eternity, from strife we gain power, clothed in grace and love, disciples of honor. All the days of our lives refuse the way of shame. We wish nobody harm, have no one to blame. Your high calling will be done, and pure eyes now glow. In darkness crave the good, like waters from the desert flow. I pledge my love all the days of my life. I pledge my soul to all that is good. I pledge my heart to my brothers and sisters who I join in the light, leave a legacy of honor. We're known through all eternity. From strife we gain power, clothed in grace and love, disciples of honor. All the days of our lives refuse the way of shame. We wish nobody harm, have no one to blame. Your high calling will be done, and pure eyes now glow. In darkness crave the good, like waters from the desert flow.